Picture this. A child drops their toy in the middle of a busy supermarket. They freeze. Their face changes. The cry is coming. Every parent nearby knows that look, the tiny storm cloud before the thunder. But then something strange happens. The Japanese mother does not shout. She does not threaten. She does not say, "Stop crying right now." She does not drag the child away in embarrassment. She simply kneels down, waits, and speaks so softly you almost wonder if the child can even hear her. But somehow, the child settles. Not instantly, not magically, but slowly. The crying fades, the child picks up the toy, and they continue walking. No punishment, no bribe, no public battle, just calm. And if you have ever wondered why Japanese children often seem so composed in public, the answer is not what most people think. It is not because Japanese parents are stricter. It is not because their children are naturally obedient. And it is definitely not because they never misbehave. The real reason is much deeper. Japanese parents are not just trying to stop bad behavior. They are trying to shape the kind of person the child believes they are becoming. And that changes everything. Before we go deeper, if your child is constantly glued to screens, crying when the tablet goes off, or struggling to play without a phone nearby, I created a simple parent guide called Unplug My Child. It shows you how to reduce screen time without turning your home into a daily battlefield. The link is in the description. Now, back to the Japanese parenting method, because one of the reasons it works so well is that it teaches children self-control before the meltdown even begins. In many Western homes, discipline begins after the child has already exploded. The child screams, the parent reacts. The child refuses, the parent raises their voice. The child pushes back, the parent threatens a punishment. And for a few minutes, it may work. The child stops, the room gets quiet, but nothing has really changed inside the child. They have learned one thing: when adults become bigger, I become smaller. But Japanese parenting starts from a different question. Not, how do I make my child stop? But, what is my child learning in this moment? That single question changes the entire atmosphere. Because when a child misbehaves, Japanese parents often see it less as rebellion and more as immaturity. Not evil, not disrespect, not a personal attack, just a child who has not yet learned what to do with a feeling that is bigger than their body. And this is where the first Japanese idea appears: Shitsuke. Shitsuke is often translated as discipline, but that translation is too small. In Japanese parenting, discipline is not just about correction, it is about formation. It is the slow process of helping a child carry good behavior inside their body until it becomes natural. Not forced, not performed, natural. So instead of waiting for the child to fail and then punishing them, the parent teaches the behavior before the difficult moment arrives. Before going into a shop, they may quietly explain, "We walk slowly here. We use a soft voice here. We touch only what we are allowed to touch." Simple, repeated, calm. No dramatic speech, no long lecture. Just a small seed planted before the storm. And this matters because young children do not learn best during chaos. When a child is already screaming, their brain is not in learning mode, it is in survival mode. The emotional part of the brain has taken over, the thinking part is offline. That is why shouting at a child during a meltdown often makes things worse. You are trying to teach a lesson to a brain that cannot receive it yet. Japanese parents understand something powerful. The best time to teach behavior is before the behavior is needed. That is why preparation matters so much. A child who has been gently prepared for a situation is less likely to fall apart inside it. Not because they are afraid, but because they already have a map. And children need maps. They need to know where they are going, what is expected, what kind of person they are being invited to become. Now here is the second part. Japanese parents often avoid turning every mistake into a public battle. In many Western homes, the moment a child acts out, the parent feels pressure to prove something, to prove they are in control, to prove they are not a weak parent, to prove other people are not judging them. So the child's behavior becomes a performance. The parent is no longer only responding to the child, they are responding to the audience. And that is where discipline becomes louder than it needs to be. Japanese parenting tends to be more private, more subtle, more relational. The parent may move closer instead of getting louder. They may lower their voice instead of raising it. They may use a look, a touch, a pause. Because the goal is not to defeat the child. The goal is to bring the child back. That is a very different kind of power. Quiet power. And children feel it. They know when a parent is trying to guide them, and they know when a parent is trying to win against them. Those two things do not feel the same in a child's nervous system. Now, this does not mean Japanese parents allow children to do whatever they want. That is the mistake people make. Gentle does not mean weak. Calm does not mean passive. Soft does not mean permissive. In fact, Japanese parenting can be extremely structured, but the structure is often carried through routine, repetition, and social belonging, not constant punishment. A child learns, this is how we behave in our family. This is how we treat shared spaces. This is how we think about other people. And that phrase matters, other people, because another major part of Japanese parenting is teaching children to be aware of how their behavior affects the group. Not in a shame-heavy way, but in a connected way. A child is helped to understand, when I scream here, it affects others. When I leave my mess, someone else carries it. When I act with care, the whole space becomes better. This is why Japanese children often clean their classrooms, serve food, put things away, take responsibility for shared environments. These are not just chores, they are identity lessons. The child is not only learning to clean, they are learning, I am someone who contributes. And that identity becomes powerful, because a child who sees themselves as helpful does not need to be begged every day to help. A child who sees themselves as responsible does not need every action turned into a reward chart. A child who sees themselves as part of something larger begins to regulate their behavior differently. This is the part many parents miss. Rules control behavior from the outside. Identity guides behavior from the inside. And Japanese parenting quietly builds identity every single day through small repeated actions. Put your shoes neatly. Say thank you before eating. Return what you use. Notice how others feel. Wait your turn. Clean your space. Nothing huge, nothing dramatic, but done again and again and again, until the child begins to think, this is just who I am. Now, let's talk about the moment your child actually loses control, because every child will. Japanese children are not robots. They cry, they resist, they get tired, they get overwhelmed. But when that happens, many Japanese parents use something that feels almost opposite to Western urgency. They pause, they observe, they give the child a little space to come back to themselves. This connects to the Japanese idea of Mimamoru. Mimamoru means to watch over while protecting, not ignoring, not abandoning, watching over. It is the art of being present without rushing in too quickly. And this is hard, very hard, because when your child is struggling, every instinct tells you to fix it immediately. Stop the crying, end the discomfort, solve the problem. But sometimes when we rescue too quickly, we accidentally teach the child, you cannot handle difficult feelings. Mimamoru sends a different message. I am here, you are safe, and I believe you can try. That belief is powerful, because children borrow our nervous system before they build their own. If we panic, they feel panic. If we rage, they feel danger. But if we stay steady, they feel a path back. Not always immediately, but over time. And this is one reason calm parenting is not just about the child, it is about the parent's body too. Your tone, your face, your breathing, your pace. Before your child listens to your words, they read your nervous system. So when a Japanese parent stays quiet during a difficult moment, that quiet is not emptiness, it is communication. It says, this feeling is big, but it is not bigger than us. Now, here is the third secret. Japanese parenting often begins with closeness before independence. In the early years, many Japanese mothers are extremely physically and emotionally close to their children. Co-sleeping is common, holding is common, responsiveness is common. The child is not pushed into independence too early, and to some Western eyes, this can look like spoiling. But developmentally, it makes sense. A child who feels deeply secure does not need to fight so hard for connection. A child who trusts that love is available can slowly begin to explore the world with more confidence. This is connected to the Japanese idea of Amae. Amae is the feeling of being able to depend on someone's love. It is the child's deep sense that they are held emotionally, not because they earned it, not because they behaved perfectly, but because they belong. And when a child feels that kind of belonging, discipline lands differently. Correction does not feel like rejection. A boundary does not feel like abandonment. The child can hear guidance because the relationship feels safe. That is why connection is not the opposite of discipline. Connection is what makes discipline work. Without connection, discipline becomes fear. With connection, discipline becomes guidance. So what can a parent actually do with all this? Start small, very small. Do not try to become a completely different parent overnight. Choose one moment in your day where you usually shout. Morning routine, mealtime, screen time, bedtime, leaving the house. Choose one.
Then prepare your child before the difficult moment, not during, before. Use simple words. When the timer rings, we turn off the tablet. You can be upset, but the tablet still goes off. I will help you. That is the map. Then, when the moment comes, do not debate, do not shout, do not give 10 warnings. Stay steady, move close, repeat the boundary, let the feeling happen without letting the behavior take over. Your child may still cry. That does not mean it failed. Crying is not failure. Crying is the sound of a child learning to survive a limit. Stay kind, stay firm, stay boring. Yes, boring, because boring parents are very powerful. A child cannot turn calm consistency into a dramatic battle unless the parent joins the drama. And over time, the child learns, this boundary is real. My parent is safe. My feelings are allowed. My behavior still has limits. That is the balance. Warmth and structure. Closeness and expectation. Trust and repetition.
This is why Japanese parenting can look so calm from the outside. Not because nothing difficult is happening, but because the parent is not treating every difficult moment like an emergency. They are playing a longer game. They are not just trying to win today's tantrum. They are shaping tomorrow's adult. So the next time your child starts to fall apart, try this. Pause. Lower your voice. Ask yourself, what skill is missing here? Maybe your child needs help waiting. Maybe they need help naming anger. Maybe they need help handling disappointment. Maybe they need sleep. Maybe they need connection. But once you see the missing skill, the child stops looking like the enemy, and you become the teacher again. Not the warden, not the referee, the teacher. That is the quiet genius of Japanese parenting. It does not ask, how do I control my child? It asks, how do I help my child become someone who can control themselves? And that is the real goal. Not obedience for 5 minutes, but self-control for life. Shitsuke, Mimamoru, Amae. Formation, trust, connection. 3 quiet ideas. But together, they can change the entire feeling of a home. And maybe the calm child you are trying to raise does not begin with a stricter rule. Maybe it begins with a calmer parent, a smaller reaction, a repeated ritual, a child who feels safe enough to learn, and a parent who remembers that discipline is not about breaking a child's will, it is about helping them build one. And if screen time is one of the biggest battles in your home right now, I made Unplug My Child for parents who want a calmer, more realistic way to reduce tablets, phones, and endless cartoons without daily shouting. You can get it through the link in the description. Start small, follow the steps, and give your child's attention span room to breathe again. If this gave you a new way to see your child's behavior, share it with another parent who needs a calmer home. And if you want more videos on child psychology and the parenting habits hidden inside different cultures, subscribe. There is a lot more coming. See you in the next one.